Do you pray? A question for everybody by J.C. Ryle, chapter 3. I ask, do you pray because private prayer is the most neglected Christian discipline. Many people in the world today call themselves Christians. They go to public worship and attend many different types of churches. Some branches of the church are really growing. But despite all this, I think there is a huge neglect of private prayer. I would not always have said that. I once thought that most people said their prayers and that many people prayed. Now I've changed my views and concluded that most professing Christians do not pray at all. This may sound rather shocking and somewhat surprising to you. The problem is that prayer is one of those things which we think will happen automatically. So of course, it's shamefully neglected. We feel that prayer is a shared responsibility in our churches, and as often happens, when we have shared responsibility, we leave to others, and very few of us take the responsibility to pray. Private prayer is a personal business between God and our souls, something which no one else sees. It is not a surprise then that there is a huge temptation to bypass prayer completely. I think there are thousands who never say a word of prayer at all, even among those who call themselves Christians. We eat, we drink, we sleep, we get up in the morning, we go to work, we go home, we take exercise, we breathe God's air, we enjoy God's sun, we walk on God's earth, we experience God's mercies. We have bodies that are dying, and we have judgment and eternity before us. But some of us never speak to God. We behave like animals that just live and then die. We live like creatures without souls. We do not have a word for the God whose hand holds our life, breath, and everything else. Not a word for the one who will pronounce our everlasting sentence one day. That is dreadful. If all our secrets were out in the open, I think we would find that it is very common. I think there are tens of thousands of people whose prayers are nothing but formality, an empty shell, a few words spoken with no thought as to their meaning. Some might mumble some sentences remembered from their childhood. Others may say the Lord's Prayer without really expecting answers to the solemn requests in it. Some people may mutter a quick prayer after they have collapsed into bed at night or scramble over their prayers while getting ready in the morning. We may be sure that in God's sight, this is not praying. Words said without engaging the heart are as utterly useless to our souls as the incessant beating of a drum, as useless as sending a love letter written by a stranger to your loved one. Words may be said, lips may be moving, but where there is no heart, there is nothing that God listens to. There is no prayer. I have no doubt that Saul said many a long prayer before the Lord met him on the way to Damascus. But remember that it was not until his heart was broken that the Lord said, he is praying. Does this surprise you? I realize the seriousness of what I'm saying, and believe me, I am convinced by it. Perhaps you find it rather excessive. Maybe in your opinion it is totally wrong. Please consider carefully what I'm saying, and I hope I will soon be able to convince you that I am simply telling you the truth. I wonder if you have forgotten that it is not a natural thing for someone to pray. The human mind is hostile to God. When it comes to our hearts, we naturally want to get as far away from God as possible and have nothing to do with him. Our feelings toward God are not naturally those of love. And why should someone pray if they have no sense of sin, no sense of spiritual need, no conviction of unseen things, no genuine desire for holiness, and no longing for heaven? Naturally speaking, most people know nothing and feel nothing when it comes to all these things. People naturally follow the crowd, and the crowd always takes the easiest route. That's the way it is, and one reason I believe that few people really pray. Prayer is not a fashionable thing either. Most of us would not rush to talk to others about our prayer lives. We would rather talk about our successes, our latest passion, than tell the rest of the office or classroom that we pray. If you ended up sharing a room on holiday with someone you did not know very well, would you be too embarrassed to pray before you went to sleep? Thousands of Christians would. Being popular and successful, looking good, being at the right parties, being thought of clever and acceptable, these things are considered fashionable. Praying certainly is not. That's just the way it is. If people are reluctant to admit to personal prayer when they are in public, I cannot believe that it is very popular practice in private. That is another reason I believe that few people really pray. And what about our lifestyles? Can we believe that people are praying against sin both day and night when we see them plunging right into it? Can we suppose they pray against worldly thinking when they are entirely absorbed and taken up with it? Can we think they are really asking God for grace to serve him when they show no desire at all to do so? No, we cannot. It is as plain as day that most people either ask nothing of God, or if they do pray, they cannot possibly mean what they say. Praying and sinning will never live together in the same heart. Either prayer will consume sin, or sin will choke prayer. It's just how it is. I look at people's lives and I come to the conclusion that few people really pray. What about the way that those are nearing death often seem to be complete strangers to God? They are sadly ignorant of the gospel. They are sadly unused to speaking to God, even unable to. There's often a dreadful awkwardness, a shyness, and a rawness in their attempts to approach the Lord. It is as if they are trying to take up completely a new habit or hobby. They seem to need someone to introduce them to God, as if they are meeting someone completely new, someone they never talked to before. I remember hearing about a lady who wanted a minister to visit her before she died. She wanted him to pray with her, so he asked her what he should pray for. She did not know. She could not think of anything she wanted him to pray for. She just knew she wanted a minister to pray. That is all. I quite understand this. Deathbeds have a way of revealing secrets. That is how it often is with those who are facing death. And it is another reason that I conclude that few people pray. I cannot see into your heart. Of course I can't. I do not know your personal story when it comes to spiritual things. But from what I see in the Bible and in the world, I am sure of this, that most important question that I can put to you is, do you pray?